All right, guys. Well, welcome back to the channel. This is Saving Africa Uncensored. What you're seeing there is an interview, a panel with Tucker Carlson. If you're in the United States or if you are familiar with, the news system in America, you would know Tucker Carlson. And he's sitting with, African leaders. Um, Basically, he sat with Julius Maada of Sierra Leone. He sat with Boko of Botswana and this president from Zimbabwe. So what I want to do is analyze the responses. More so, of course, I'm from Sierra Leone, so I care about the responses coming from, the illegal president of Sierra Leone. But I think, unfortunately, Tucker Carlson either did not do his homework properly or did not have this information. Because in Sierra Leone, what you should know is that unfortunately the opposition, they don't have a footprint when it comes to the international news media. So Sierra Leone's situation is not out there like it should be, because the people that really matter, for example, Dr. Samora Kamara, who won an elections, the last time he spoke was on VOA. It doesn't go anywhere. Tucker Carlson and these folks wouldn't even know about that. So the opposition, parliamentary leaders, opposition leaders don't take interviews internationally. So the issues of Sierra Leone is not there. So it's very difficult. So apparently, probably that is why Tucker Carlson did not have the information that he really needed, to be able to ask the relevant questions that would make a difference, in the lives, in these live sessions that they're having on these international platforms. But yeah, Tucker Carlson used to be, worked for CNN back in the day, worked for Fox News. It was one of the guys who propagated, the whole MAGA movement. If President Trump is president today, Tucker Carlson was fervently behind that idea. But of course, he has transformed over the past few years, maybe year or two. He has really changed his views, and so now he's a different kind of Tucker Carlson, right? He's aligned with the Saudis and all these people, right? Aligned with Russia, because he's no longer part of that conspiracy theory. But he was there at this World Economic Forum and spoke with African leaders. Um, and I wouldn't say World Economic Forum. I want to be careful. It is not World Economic Forum. Let me make sure. It's World Government Summit. World Government Summit 2026. There. So yeah. So let's without much ado, let me play. See where this all started as they walk to the stage, so you guys can see where we're going with this, and
In as
let's
clear terms
analyze
as you
this.
can, I wonder if you would contrast your experience with China versus the Western powers. Do you think that Zimbabwe and other African countries, to be totally blunt, get a better deal from Chinese investment than they have with Western powers over the past 150 years?
Well, my view is that initially, as we became independent, we had most of our development thrust was from the West. But as we evolved, we have also benefited from investment and cooperation from countries like China.
But the basic structure seems the same. Foreign powers extract mineral wealth from various African countries. But do you think that the arrangement that Zimbabwe and other countries currently have with China is better or worse for Zimbabwe than it was under, say, the Brits?
I think the premises upon which you construct your question, I don't think is perfect.
Not surprised.
Yes, Zimbabwe is a sovereign state.
Yes.
You understand? And we move on the basis that gives us the best results of our resources. Whether it is relation with the West or the East, what is primarily important is what we ourselves as Zimbabweans are satisfied with. We don't need to please the West or please the East. We please ourselves.
Good.
So I can tell you, the president of Zimbabwe, of course, he came off very defensive, right? Because he knows where Tucker Carlson is going, and the question is very simple. what's the difference, between, now having China, working with your countries versus when it was the West? I mean, very simple. But of course, it's not going to answer that because it's been being very diplomatic. It doesn't want to say, hey, working with China is the best versus working with the Western powers, right? So it doesn't want to go there because it doesn't want to hurt nobody's feelings. Of course, if he says something out of the, that is not sensible, then now it becomes a diplomatic thing. And he's trying to stay in the good books of the US, of course. So that's his response basically is, I'm not going to say anything. It's just, like that, vague. So when you listen to that, you know exactly where he's going with that. But let's continue listening to this. Let's listen.
That that seems like a good model for every sovereign country. Um,
And when we talk about sovereignty, and that's the thing right there, right? Because a lot of times, these folks, African leaders, they like to talk about sovereignty, but of course, they cannot even take care of their countries without the support of these other countries. The only time sovereignty really matters to them is when we have elections and stuff like that, right? That's the only time. Don't interfere in our elections, sovereignty, sovereignty. But when it comes to everything else, of course, there's no sovereignty there. But when they are rigging elections, killing their people, abusing human rights, that's when sovereignty comes into play. So that's just something to bring to play here. But anyways, let's see. So again, like I said, this I'm just gonna go through all of the the presidents, and until we get to the president of Sierra Leone, because I want to make sure I give a very succinct description of what the interviews look like for each president. And matter of fact, in a nutshell, I can tell you the Zimbabwean president came, very defensive. He has that defensive posture. Wasn't willing to answer any of the questions, properly. And then, of course, the president of Sierra Leone was just bullshitting his way through the whole time. Sierra Leone's president, who is illegally occupying the presidency because he did not win the elections. And by the way, I'm throwing this challenge to Tucker Carlson. If you see this interview, I'm challenging you to this fact. You can do your own research and find out. I can point you to resources for you to realize and see exactly what I'm saying. But in Sierra Leone, the June 24th, 2023 elections, up to this day, we don't have the results, the disaggregated data that shows every polling station for polling station. We don't have the results. So Julius Matabio actually was illegally occupying that seat over there, representing Sierra Leone unconstitutionally and illegally against the will of the people. And there's no democracy in Sierra Leone. I just want to point that very clear so we have that understanding, so you know exactly what we're dealing with for Tucker Carlson. All right. But that's something I can talk about more so on another day. But for now, let me get back to this interview, and so we can listen in on this. All right.
President Bio, thank you for this. Do you think that there is a substantial difference? I'm just trying to understand from a Western perspective how the East does business in Africa versus how the West does, and it may be too sensitive a topic really even to talk about out loud, but to the extent you have a view you can share, would you?
Let me show you something that makes me furious every time I see it. This is
All right, let's get this out of the way here.
I'm sure relations cannot be measured country by country.
Yes.
Relations depend on the historical background of countries between one country and another.
Yes.
That's the basis on which relations grow and are nurtured. For us in Zimbabwe, yes, we are a former British colony, but we are very happy with the relations that have now developed with, say, countries like China and so on.
Yes.
Despite being a former British colony.
I think this maybe one of these topics is too difficult to talk about in public, so let me just ask you, President Bio, about one of the strengths of your country and the continent, which is its birth rate, which so far surpasses that of any other region in the world, and that seems like a strength. How has your country, Sierra Leone, but also many other countries in Africa, been able to maintain a birth rate at replacement when Europe, the US, Canada, lots of other parts of the world have not been able to?
All right. I'm going to let you listen to the answer that the Sierra Leone president is going to give. He's just bullshitting his way through the whole time, because it's not like they have any policies in place as far as how we, keep our youthful population going. At this point in time, it's just the fact that in Africa, I mean, men as well as women, people are so idle, not having things to do so much that they have time for a lot of sexual activities. I'll put it that way, right? So Africa has a very youthful population, not because the African leaders have any policies in place to ensure that the African people are very fruitful. If anything, we've heard about theories of the Bill Gates sponsoring programs to ensure that they cut down on the birth rate across Africa. So it's not like he has any policies, to that promotes having families, people, husbands and wives creating having more kids, having more children, just so that they can keep the population growing and youthful. No, there's no policy in place. But I want you to listen to how it bullshits his way through the whole question. And but again, this Tucker Carlson, I think it did not have enough serious questions to ask, because that is not a question that I think was worth, with everything else, with all the other materials, that if he had done his homework properly, all the other materials that he had to be able to ask questions to the president of Sierra Leone that should be very relevant in our times. But let's listen, let's allow him to answer the question.
Thank you very much. I think we are hard workers, and
I'm
we
gonna
work both in the day and at night. And
I'm gonna give you guys the opportunity to listen to that properly. Because it's very the way he answered the question, and you guys would see the bullshit, and of course people were laughing, but um let's see.
have young people, and to keep the birth rate at the right level so that there is sustainability in development. What we do today, or as leaders, we provide the enabling environment, provide them with the tools, the young people, to navigate the world, which is extremely tough, complicated, and evolving and changing all the time. So it is our responsibility to bear that in mind. We have to plan ahead, of be ahead of the curve, to be able to replace accordingly, so that we don't have a gap in our development process. So we have been busy producing as much as we can, a lot of good people, and we are investing in their education so that they are fit for purpose for a world that is becoming digital, and of course going extremely to the edge of technological advancement.
If I could just ask you a quick follow-up.
All right. So Tucker is going to give a follow up, right? He's going to give a follow up to this question. But again, remember, the question that Tucker Carlson asked was very simple, right? Um, you know, if you know anything about Sierra Leone, the reason, I mean, I don't even want to talk much about, like, when you talk about the quality education that he's talking about, the education, how we prioritize, we emphasize. Go to Sierra Leone today, go do your own research. Tucker Carlson, if you can travel to Sierra Leone and don't listen to the, narrative of the government, if you can do your basic research. These guys came to power in 2018 initially, and they increased the budget from 16% for education to 21%. Up until today, there are teachers that are still not on the payroll, or even if they're on the payroll, they don't get paid. There are schools still dilapidated. There are schools that are still thatched buildings. There are schools that are, don't even have proper blackboards. There are schools that are dirt, built with dirt blocks, mud houses. There is nothing to show. They just took all that money. Of course, the David Shenge, who I'm sure probably was in the back room with you, who's like a chief minister. His name is David Shenge, MIT. I'm sure he would have given you his resume, MIT, PhD, blah, 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 and all that bullshit. These guys, of course, was giving loans to his father. All of those are cases that are going to be investigated. Hopefully, at some point, if we have a government like the John Jerry Rawlings of Ghana back in 1979, we're looking forward to stuff like that. But there is nothing to write home about. Like I said, this guy was just bullshitting his way through the questions, through the answers. What you ask is totally different from what he was saying, because it was incoherent. It wasn't making any sense. He does not know or cannot handle the issues, because, of course, he's just lying his way through. So there is nothing substantive there to say. But Tucker Carlson wouldn't know that. But let's continue. Let's continue to listen to this.
To you, Mr. President, do you keep track precisely of how many of your young, educated citizens leave and how many stay? Are you thinking hard about how to retain the smartest, most energetic people?
All right, I'm gonna let him answer that question also again. But remember that the question was asked: do you keep track of the people that are living and staying? That was the basis of the fundamental basis of the question. But this man, you're gonna listen to his answer, just rambling his way through, braggadociously talking about just so much lies. Everything is lies. In Sierra Leone today, you ask, 90% of the young population, people under the age of 40, 45, even 45. If they have their way today, they want to leave Sierra Leone. And these guys have no track of the amount of people that are leaving that country because he does not care. Talk about the kush epidemic, the drug epidemic across Sierra Leone. He does not care. So they have no way of tracking the amount of people that are staying, young people that are staying, people that are dying. Of course, they don't care. They don't track that information. It's none of his business. Go for as much as you want to go. They don't care about that as far as they have the country to themselves, continue to loot the resources, plunder the resources of the nation. But again, I want you to listen to the way bullshit his way through the whole question. Again, remember the question, right? Question is simple. Do you keep track of the people leaving, the young people that are living, and the ones that are staying? What do you do to keep them, right? And if you know anything about Sierra Leone, of course, the uh, unemployment is very high at this point. There is no jobs for young people. It's nepotism and tribalism. 70 to 80% of the population is unemployed. You finish college today, there's nothing for you to do except if you're politically, affiliated. Then of course they'll find somewhere to put you so you can join the cabal. But otherwise, you're on your own, and we see this across the country, right? So, but listen to him. It's gonna bullshit his way. Like I said again, the president of Zimbabwe was just very defensive. Sierra Leone's illegal president, Julius Marabio, was just bullshitting his answers throughout the whole thing. So let's listen. Let's listen.
Definitely. In fact, what my administration did was to make sure that we provide basic primary and secondary education free of charge to the citizens.
Again, the question was, what do you do to keep the young people from staying? And he's going back to free quality education, believing that free quality education is the way to keep the young people, when the free quality education itself was bullshit and nonsense. There was nothing there. Again, I'm telling you that young kids finishing and graduating college today have nothing to do, no jobs, and they're getting into drugs and kush. So all of that answer is just bullshit. But let's allow him to speak. Listen again. Remember the basis of the question: what do you do to keep the young people that are leaving? What do you do for them not to leave? What are you doing? Are you tracking, the young people that want to leave or are staying? Are you tracking that number? That's the question, the basis of the question. Well, listen to the response.
Every child born in Sierra Leone can go to school and finish high school without paying a penny. We don't just provide tuition, we also make sure that we provide other essentials to make it possible so that nobody has excuse not to go to school, because
the whole thing about them not paying any penny, it's a bullshit again. It's a lie. It's just bullshitting his way through, lying about the whole thing. People are spending more than they even spent when it was not the free quality education from the previous administration. People spent more money putting their kids through school when these guys claim they have free quality education. So again, it's just bullshitting his way through, lying. Nothing there. I have tons of videos I can play for you right now to prove all of that point. But for the purpose of just listening to this interview, let's listen to the interview.
In the 21st century, without education, definitely you can make it. And we do not just want to make it at the personal level, family level. We want to grow as a nation. We want to be useful citizens of West Africa, the community that I chair today. But we also want to be useful citizens, global useful citizens that can contribute to the world. So we are taking stock of that, and we are educating them, equipping them. In fact, I call education as an equipment in navigation.
Bullshitting his way through it.
A world that is becoming very, very complicated and complex.
Thank you.
So that's it right there. The question was very simple. Do you keep track of the young people that, leaving, young people that are staying? Do you keep track of that? How do you, right? And what do you do to keep them? It says it's free quality education. This is a question where they're talking about people that have already graduated, probably have tertiary education, vocational education, carpenters, masons, electricians. Do they have jobs? Because a lot of the people that are flying and want to leave Sierra Leone today, these are not folks that we're talking about primary school education or free basic education. We're talking about people that have graduated high school, grown-ups, adults that need job, a way of living that could keep them in Sierra Leone so they don't have to think about traveling. Because the only reason why you want to travel, a child who's 10 years old, 11 years old is not thinking about traveling until at least they're more than, say, about 17, 18. Even though I've seen kids as young as 12, 13 going through Temple Run. There was a case that I put on my page of a young child who was caught up in Niger on his way to do Temple Run because the situation is that bad in Sierra Leone. But these are people, what Tucker Carlson is asking for here, which this president, because again, he has no clue, he does not know what he's doing, what he's talking about, very inept, and all of that. This was a man who was unemployed for 22 years, has no practical administrative experience, other than the fact that he was part of a coup d'etat that came to power. And you all know that's bullshit. They were not doing anything, So he was unemployed for 22 years before he became president again in Sierra Leone. It tells you a lot about the country itself. So this is a question where we're talking about young people, vibrant young men and young women who want to build a life, want to have a family, want to live a productive life in a productive society. How do you keep them? He's talking about free quality education. How do you keep people that are grown up adults that want to stay in their country, don't want to fly overseas, don't want to come overseas? Instead of talking about creating jobs, factories, creating an enabling environment for people to thrive and do businesses, or schemes that the government has promoted to ensure that they keep young folks in the country and keep that talent. I'm happy he didn't talk about human capital development because that was his word. I was surprised because I was waiting for that human capital development, but I didn't hear human capital development. Bullshit. But this is what the reality is. So instead of answering the question the proper way, he has no clue how to answer the question. And of course, all he's thinking about is just bullshitting his way through the question the whole time. Anyways, so that's what it is because there's no authenticity there. But let's listen to this. Of all the three presidents, President Boko of Botswana was the most honest guy, very honest, very pragmatic, to the point. He's real, and you can tell because when you look at Botswana's politics, you see it in Botswana's politics. You know what I mean? So it is a fact. It's there. So let's see. Let's see because it's ridiculous. I want you guys to see listen to President Boko here.
Botswana, who are educated and energetic. What's your pitch to them? What's your argument to them to stay in Botswana, not go to South Africa, Europe, the United States?
Young people are generally innovative. They are entrepreneurial. They now have become digital natives, and that presents immense opportunities to them. These opportunities mean they can pretty much operate wherever they are, and they must, as a matter of course, remain within Botswana so that they can then spread their reach and influence to every part from Botswana. And so the opportunities that there are in Botswana, the training, the education, the acquisition of skills, the support, the environment that nurtures them and feeds and fuels their verve and vitality is what Botswana offers and what will power Africa. Africa generally is a very young continent with a median age of 19.3. Botswana's median age is 25. And so with such a population, Africa is poised to rule the world.
That is an authentic president speaking. And you can look through the research, you can see what the country is doing in Botswana, how well they're doing, how they conduct elections, peaceful, free, fair elections, peaceful transfer of power, no fighting, no confusion. Botswana is one of the most peaceful countries in Africa, and you can see it. You see how he answers the question? He's talking about how they look at how they can revitalize these young people, create opportunities for the young people to stay in Botswana, but be able to have their reach across the world. This is a very intelligent, and of course, he's a lawyer, Harvard-trained lawyer. He's a lot more educated than the illegal president of Sierra Leone. Of course, these guys, So you can tell from when he speaks that he's very educated, very intelligent, and he's going straight to the point, not bullshitting his way through the answer, straight to the point. That's it right there. He's not making things up, trying to spice anything up. No, it tells you. And in Botswana, they have the diamonds. They control the diamond. Recently, they kicked out the Boers or whatever the South African company that was in charge of the diamonds. Recently, they did that. So you can tell Botswana is on a trajectory. They're doing very well. When you listen to the man speak, you know exactly that this man is very honest and he's very, very real with what he's saying. Not the Sierra Leone illegal president bullshitting his way, Marabio, bullshitting his way through the whole thing. Listen to this.
So, what are your plans for the world once you rule it?
To make it fairer, to make it more equitable, to ensure that intellectual property is internalized in every part of the African continent, that innovation serves humanity, not just a predatory elite, and that everybody can partake equitably and benefit from the fruits of the economy and the vast opportunities that are available in the world.
Again, very succinct response, straight to the point, not beating about the bush. What would you do if you rule the continent, the world? It wants to make sure everybody has a free and shake. And when you look at what is actually happening in Botswana, the guy is factual. I've never heard youth being killed in Botswana. In Sierra Leone, we've had the Makeni massacre, the Tonkolimba massacre, Tombo massacre, the Mile 91 massacres, the Padeba Road prison massacres, the killing of opposition people at their opposition political party office. We've seen all of that stuff in Sierra Leone. So there's nothing to write home about. But in Botswana, you don't hear stuff like that. You don't hear that nonsense. So you know that when this man speaks, he's speaking from a place of honesty and being very real and being very transparent with the world. You listen to a gentleman who's highly educated speak. That is a fact. Let's listen to him here again. Let's continue.
Well, I look forward to being treated fairly under your rule. Thank you, President Nagawa. I wonder what lessons you've been in the government of Zimbabwe for decades in various roles, including through a very turbulent period where your predecessor famously kicked out the whites and then the economy tanked and now it's rising again. I wonder if you would summarize the lessons that your country has learned from that experience.
I'm not so sure what you have in mind. But let me say, our economy has faced challenges. I'm sure you're aware.
Yes.
Zimbabwe has been under sanctions for decades as a result of us claiming our land from the British and making ourselves independent. We seized the land and gave it to our people. So sanctions were imposed on us. But in spite of all that constraint we have developed, and we are happy that we have developed on our own, and we feel very independent.
Well, some of the land was seized from people who were born there. So I wonder if there's a lesson about targeting people on the basis of their skin color. Do you think?
Can I hear you?
Well, people had their land seized in Zimbabwe who were born in Zimbabwe, and they were targeted on the basis of their race, and I wonder if you think that's good or bad.
No. Land did not belong to a race. It
Right,
belonged to
that's right.
Zimbabweans. So when the colonialists took land from us, time came when we asserted ourselves, take back our land. And those who wanted to have land at the same basis as the African people of Zimbabwe remained. But those who felt they were superior left.
Again, like I said, the president of Zimbabwe was just defensive the whole time through, right? He was playing to his base. That's all he was doing. He was just busy playing to his base. That is a fact. That's all he was doing, playing to his base the whole time with his interview. So I'm not. You could do what you want to do with his responses. Let's move on. Let's see what Tucker is talking about now.
Mr. Bio, it does seem like, Mr. President, that the model of government around the world seems
Listen to
to be
this.
changing, and people seem to have lost confidence in democracy, at least in the West. People aren't quite as keen to promote democracy. Do you notice this? Do you think democracy is in retreat around the world?
I think the world is in transition.
Yes.
And normally that comes along with instability. I normally refer to it as we are in a state of flux.
Yes.
We have been told to go democratic, and those who are leading the way or who have been teaching us to be democratic are no longer committed to that method of governance. So we are left to choose, but I still believe that democracy is the best method of governance, choosing who leads, especially liberal democracy with all the freedoms that go with it, so that human rights and other liberties are observed and maintained. We remain committed to democracy, irrespective of the fact that there are now reversers, even in Africa, around the world. In fact, these days, when you listen to world news and other things, you hardly hear about democracy. You're very right. But we are committed to it because it is the best form until we can provide an alternative that can really sit well with us in society. We remain committed to democracy.
So, guys, this is the reality of what we're dealing with, and this was what I really wanted to talk about, and this was why I decided to catch on this presentation here to talk to the world about what is actually happening in Sierra Leone, because the man that Tucker Carlson was asking about democracy, he himself is illegally occupying office, and he's benefiting because the rest of the world actually, sat by and watched him, and his institutions, destroy, democracy in Sierra Leone. So that is what, the reality is, and that is what the truth is when it comes to what is actually happening. But again, like I said, Tucker Carlson did not do his homework, the guy who was doing the interview, because it doesn't seem like he has any clue about the June 24th, 2023 elections and what happened in Sierra Leone. I think if he had that information, that was an opportunity for him to bring up the question of, say, hey, President Bio, whilst as a follow-up to that question, I heard that in Sierra Leone, of course, the June 24th, 2023 elections was widely condemned by the international partners. What is going on with that? How were you guys able to resolve that? So that is what I want to do. And for the benefits of for everybody watching this, depending on whatever part of the world you find yourself in, I'm going to play this video. This is of a German, professor who actually did, his thing and gave his own, version. He did a research on the elections of June 24th, 2023. So now that you've listened to Julius Maada Bio's, response to the decline of democracy, I want Tucker Carlson to listen to this. And again, this was from Simon Primus. Is Dr. Simon Primus is a lecturer out in Germany, and he did this research. And I really want to share this with you, Tucker Carlson, so you guys would have this information and do whatever you want to do with this. But listen to this, because based off of the research of Dr. Simon Primus, it talks about the June 24th, 2023 elections in Sierra Leone and how it was rigged. Let us listen to this real quick.
My name is Simon Primus, and I am an assistant professor of political science at the Friedrich Alexander University of Nuremberg-Erlangen in Germany. For several years, I have been working on voting behavior in Africa's transitional democracies. And in this video, I discuss voting patterns in Sierra Leone, particularly in light of the highly contentious recent presidential election. First, a quick breakup of the events. Sierra Leone is a West African country with a population of roughly 9 million and has written a remarkable democratization success story. Despite grappling with one of the lowest per capita incomes globally, the country has been a highly competitive democracy for 2 decades and experienced 2 peaceful turnovers of power. On the 24th of June 2023, Sierra Leone held its general elections. After 2 days of counting, the Electoral Commission announced the re-election of incumbent President Julius Maada Bio, securing 56% of the national vote. His victory was just above the crucial 55% threshold required to avoid a runoff against opposition candidate Camara. As often in transitional democracies, the winner is celebrating and the loser is crying foul. However, in this particular case, both national and international observers have raised significant concerns about the official result, pointing to logistical problems, statistical inconsistencies, and a notable lack of transparency in the tabulation of results. Many experts, including the renowned political scientist and author of How to Rig an Election, Nick Cheeseman, suggest the election was rigged. The most compelling evidence comes from the parallel vote tabulation conducted by the civil society coalition New Sierra Leone. In the past 3 elections, their PVT has accurately predicted the official outcome. However, this year several inconsistencies have emerged. Most notably, the vote shares of the main candidates significantly deviate from the projected results. Incumbent Julius Maada Bio's official vote share is 5.8% higher than in the parallel vote tabulation, while opposition leader Samura Camara is down by 5.3%. Importantly, both deviations exceed the margin of error defined by the PVT. The inconsistencies clearly indicate that the vote was rigged to lift President Bio over the 55% threshold for a first-round victory. While the
Tucker Carlson, I wish you guys, anyway, I wouldn't blame you. But this is one of many videos. And there are publications and articles online, of course. You can do your own research about the elections in Sierra Leone. But I wanted to give you this one. For all of you international, journalists out there that are interviewing these African leaders, I think it's best for you guys to do your homework, do your research, get all the facts and data before you face these guys. Because you ask a very great question about democracy and how they feel about it. But in Sierra Leone, the man that you ask that question himself is illegally occupying office. He is unconstitutionally occupying office. He rigged the elections of June 24th, 2023. He rigged the elections away from the people. He stole the elections. It's sacrosanctly clear. Everybody knows, the world knows, but they let this man still stay in power because we have a feckless and a useless opposition. That is the reality, and that is what happened, and that's why we have the situation that we have today. That is why this man is in power, because you have a feckless, useless, futile, opposition. That's why the people of their political party are treating them now. They're not even registering anymore. There is voter apathy. They've stopped registration for their political parties. They don't care about the cards anymore. Because the people have given up on democracy in Sierra Leone. There is no free speech. All these guys do is lie about people's rights. I can show you videos after videos of, people getting, destroyed and killed, in Sierra Leone for a simple generator. People were killed in Sierra Leone for a generator. People lost their lives just because they stood up against the government to say that we are not going to let you take our generator. They were killed in Sierra Leone. It happened. Threatening these people, telling them, that we would kill you if you challenge government. So when Julius Maada Bio tells you about, them respecting, the freedoms of Sierra Leoneans, it's a blatant bullshit and lie. These guys really don't care about democracy. If you don't believe me, let's listen to this. This is the BBC report when they killed Sierra Leoneans.
Out over the weekend, which turned
Let's listen to this.
Deadly. Calm has now returned. Leone now in the northern city of Makeni, where protests broke out over the weekend, which turned deadly. Calm has now returned, but many are asking how the relocation of the city's standby electricity generator, which was going to be relocated by authorities to the international airport, could have led to the loss of life. The BBC's Umaru Fofana has been investigating.
Want justice. People need justice. The latest song in town calling for justice for 5 people killed during the weekend protests in Makeni. sung by the artist known as Stuntman, it urges the youths to avoid violence, but also laments over what he calls police brutality, which he says is on the rise. It all started on Friday night after rumors had circulated on social media that McKinney would be plunged into darkness because their generator was being taken away. It led to youth mobilizing to ensure that did not happen. Minister of Energy, Kanja Sise, says he regrets the loss of life and that the whole situation could have been avoided if only the local authorities had informed the people as agreed.
Precisely on the 30th of May this year, I sent my permanent secretary, the Director General of the EGTC, that is the Electricity Generation and Transmission Company, and other senior officers of the Ministry of Energy to hold stakeholder engagement with the people of Miami. And they held a meeting under the chairmanship of the mayor, her deputy, the district council chairman, some civil society, and the local press representatives. The situation is that our machine in Lunge is now currently out of service. We had a problem with it, and we could not import the required materials because of the COVID. McKinney has two machines, and they are used there purely for standby purposes because McKinney is on a year-round hydropower, and they do not actually need those machines right now.
The protesters say they were never informed, and the authorities went at night to take the generator away.
We were failed to inform as youth, because in any developmental issue, we the youth counts a lot. The local authority and that of the central government failed to engage us. But because of this misinformation has led to the death of some of our youth.
We protested because we were informed about the location of the machine. And mind you, and this part of this country, 70 to 80% of the population is living, based on electricity. Some are selling cold water, some are selling drinks just to sustain their lives. We still feel aggrieved and we feel disappointed to our leaders.
The city's referral hospital says the 5 people died from gunshot wounds, apparently sustained during the shooting by police. The Inspector General of Police, Ambrose Savula, gave me his reaction to the weekend violence.
My reaction towards the behavior of the disorderliness of people that had wanted to burn down police stations, that had wanted to burn down the banks, that had wanted to burn down other government institutions. The police or whoever is not there to kill somebody, but in the interim where the police station is about to be overrun, I don't think the police has to stand and wait until people come and overrun them in the police station.
Do you not think your officers were heavy-handed by using live bullets against protesters who are not carrying any arms?
I don't think so. I think they responded appropriately because I believe they were attacked by machetes and guns as well.
By the way you sound, Inspector General, it's unlikely there will be any investigations into this matter by way of bringing to justice those police officers who could have killed those civilians.
Investigation, any matter of any nature is supposed to be investigated. Generally, the matter is going to be investigated.
The weekend
There's been no investigation.
A string of violent protests by youth and what many here see as police brutality. The latest has divided opinion between those.
All right, guys. So for Tucker Carlson, any of these, journalists that are out there, you have to do your homework before taking these interviews with these people. And I would like to share this with you guys because I want you guys to see this stuff right here. This is a publication up until this day that shows, 10 youths missing. Apart from the people that actually lost their lives, there were 10 other youths that still this day nobody knows their whereabouts. It is rumored that on their way transporting these guys, the youth that protested, on their way transporting them from McKinney, this town where they killed them, to Freetown, some of these youth were alive, but they kind of killed them on the way and dumped their bodies. 10 of those youths disappeared. And this member of parliament was asking, where are those 10 youths? Till this day, there has been no investigation. There has been no investigations. These are some of the victims that were killed. So when Julius Matabio tells you that he is, a very friendly guy when it comes to, human rights and this and that, Tucker Carlson, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I can show you tons and tons of images that have to do with, even if just with McKinney alone. So you can see exactly what we're talking about, because I don't want you guys to think that we're making stuff up. The human rights record of Julius Maada, and this is why I'm very pissed off at the International Criminal Court, because Sierra Leoneans have done enough to bring prosecution to Julius Maada and his thugs that killed people in Sierra Leone, but the ICC have not been doing a good job when it comes to that. These are victims. This is another report from the McKinney massacre that it would be nice for you guys to take a look at. Matter of fact, let me let you guys take a look at it. This is a soldier, live bullet, live firing. This is like it was engaging enemy combatants when it was engaging civilians. I want you guys to see this. This is a soldier walking down, McKinney, the streets of McKinney, killing people, shooting live rounds. I want you to see this. Let me, so you guys would understand what we're talking about. Okay. I think this is better right here. Let's see. Good. I want you guys to see this. In the distance there, that is a soldier. In the distance, that is a soldier engaging live rounds, taking a walk down the streets of McKinney. I want you to see it on that day, killing protesters. He's in front. You see the truck is coming right there. There's a truck coming. These are some of the images that our people had to deal with in Sierra Leone. Tons of these. Killing people. Like I said, this is another video. It's that you guys must see.
This is so pathetic. This is so pathetic. This is so pathetic. We did. The farm.
So, when I come here and we're making these statements, we're not making stuff up. So when Julius Maada tells you about his human rights records, people like Tucker Carlson, you ought to do some serious research. These were the victims because they protested for a generator. They said, don't take our generator. They were killed just because they protested for a generator. Don't take a generator. They killed these people. As you can see here, all of these. These are photos of the victims. That is the generator that they killed people for. Worth less than $100,000, if not maybe a little bit more over that. That is the generator that they killed people for in McKinney. Look at how they are harassing women in that country under Julius Maada's rule. Look at this girl. I don't even know if this girl is alive. Maybe somebody can tell us. Let me bring his face closer. If you know this girl in Sierra Leone, is she alive? Is she well? Because what they did to some of these women in detention, they were raping them. All of this happened in Sierra Leone under the same Julius Maada who travels the world, and you guys are sitting there allowing this man to bullshit his way through these sessions, traveling incessantly, costing the country so much money, has no idea of what to do. And this is the man that is perambulating the globe, acting as he is all of that. This is the reality of what we got going in Sierra Leone. This is the Padebaro Prisons massacre. I want you guys to see this as well.
The finding of the 2023 U.S. Human Rights Report is correct. The Republic of Sierra Leone, armed forces officers who were directly or indirectly involved in incidents resulting in the death of citizens. August 10th. Protest, Lima, Lavahun, Alpha, Bosowo, and Kemo. The McKinney Generator Protest, Samba, Bassi, and Komba.
So these are the names that are critical to the investigations for the International Criminal Court with most of the killings that occurred in Sierra Leone. They have to answer. If they're innocent, they're innocent. But these are the people in key roles and responsibilities that are responsible for the killings across Sierra Leone since 2018. We didn't have to go too far. So we have all of this data, and we've been providing this data for the ICC, but the ICC has not taken any action.
Pademba Road Prison Massacre, Lima, Bosowa, Momo, and Amara, killing of Evangelical Samson, Idara, Bakana, and Komba. The 28 June 2023 shooting at APC Party Office, Masakwo, TM Brima, Paika, FS Aruna, and Bakari.
These are the people.
Bakari was involved in the death of Evangelical Samson, Dasama, Simbo, Kainesi, and Wai Brima were involved in the August 10 killings.
We have the data. We're not making things up when I come here to talk to you guys. I'm not doing this because I'm excited, I'm happy, no. And the International Criminal Court, in as much as I support them, I share their stuff, the ICC, but the ICC has failed us in Africa. But the fact of the matter remains that it's, I just want to point out that people like Julius Marabio, when they traveling the globe, and these, journalists are not doing their homework enough to actually, ask the questions that should be asked. But this is the ICC. They're doing well. May the soul of this judge rest in peace. But, Mr. Karim Khan did not do us justice at all in Sierra Leone. With all the killings that occurred in Sierra Leone since 2018, Marabio should have been prosecuted. The people that committed the crimes should have been prosecuted. Julius Marabio is the president, and I get it at the time, so you cannot prosecute a sitting president, but you can actually still, like you did, to people like this Ruto of Kenya was sort of indicted at the criminal court and brought in for a deposition and stuff like that. You could have done that. They could have done that. But this is the ICC. I mean, they're doing good, but to be honest with you, I'm really disappointed with the ICC. But I'm just saying, to people like, Tucker Carlson and them, please, guys, do some research before, you come out here. Do some research. How about the women that were manhandled? There's a politician, Miss Femi School, she was arrested at home. Just because. Just because. She wanted to stand with, the women that said, we want to protest. These women were harassed. I could show you these videos of these women getting harassed. I don't care what somebody says, what they did. Nobody should take the law into their own hands like this. These are videos that you guys should see. That is how they were treating women in Sierra Leone. And the next one, I want you to see how there's a guy who used a stick and hit her in the back of her neck. Watch this. Watch this. You see that? You see that right there? You saw how she was hit in the back of her neck? Watch this. You see that? That's how they're treating women. Imagine we were able to catch that on camera. Think about what they've done to people that were held in prison since 2018 under Julius Marabio. The amount of people that were killed, tortured, brutally tortured whilst they were in detention. If only they can speak, I guarantee you, we would deserve a tribunal to have these people speak and express themselves publicly for the world to hear what they went through. But this is what they did. Look at that guy spanking that lady with a stick at the back of her neck to paralyze her spinal cord, basically. See? What did she do? She protested. That was the crime she committed. Because she's using abusive language, so that gives them the right to use stick on her? This is how they were treating women. I'm not making this stuff up. Women coming out to protest, they have to hide. Because if they don't hide, they will deal with them. They have to hide like people like these.
Right now, as I talk so, Central Police Station, where they hold some of the women. The woman and they right now when are 22, where they don't old. Easy dear, the woman that we come out for them, we able for freedom because they say now higher from above and then they can go Pademba Road. But right now, as I talk so as the national women's leader for the PRN, and then I hear where they hold me woman them. and then with them for long we see the way forward. So do if I get this message, I want to know say the woman and they right now at Central Police Station they suffer. They torture them so much, torture them, wounded and embodied them.
They're being tortured.
Give this update right now what they tell us so. And they are right now with them at the
This is the record of Julius Maada Bio. So when he perambulates the world, sits in these panels, this shows the hypocrisy of the Western world as well. And Tucker Carlson, you dropped the ball, man. You dropped the ball. You did not do basic research to find out what is actually happening. Call me on your show. I'll present all these facts with you. I'm not going to make stuff up. Call me on your show, Tucker Carlson. Let's have a conversation. I'll present all the facts that I have, all the evidences, and more. Because we saved the data. We're not letting this thing go. Look at what this officer was saying to a lady. I want you to listen to this interaction with a lady had with police officers in a police station. What they were saying to her. And I hope you can translate this. I'll try to explain it to you. But I want you guys to see this. This lady, a mother, came out to protest, to say that things are difficult. Life is hard for me. Me and my children. I have kids. My husband passed away. I want you to listen to the interaction that the police had with these women. This was how they were killing people in that country. They killed citizens in that country. And Julius Maada Bio is traveling the world, and you guys are giving him, a panel to sit and talk all this nonsense that he's spewing out there, illegally occupying the office of the presidency. Listen to this interaction. The police officer is telling the lady that you rot in jail. We'll kill you in jail. We're going to kill you. Yes, she was released later on. But imagine the psychological torture that has for police officers to be telling you we're going to kill you in prison. And they've been killing people. They killed people. They're still killing people in prisons, in jails across that country. We have some of the most overcrowded prisons across Africa, across the world. These guys are doing it. Listen to this interaction. That is a police officer going back and forth telling the woman she's ugly. He would have nothing to do with her type. She's useless. That's a police officer in a police station. We're not making this shit up. All of these women went through so much psychological trauma. And these people want us to just move on and forget and think and like nothing really happened? No. No. What about the killing of Evangelist Samson, this young man? I don't care what your political, party affiliation is. You don't deserve to be killed. I don't care what you did. I don't care if you organized the protest. It is your right. Samson was chased down and killed. He was hunted down and killed by these thugs. We shouldn't let that happen. These are all situations out there. So, guys, I wanted to share that with you all and let you all know so you could at least have an understanding of what is actually happening. But it's sad. Every time I see Julius Maada Bio, taking these, sessions internationally, it really pains me. It really hurts. It really hurts to see, these guys taking these podiums. Yeah. But this guy was brutally killed by the Julius Maada Bio regime. That's his dead body in the back of a truck. after they chased him and shot him because they said, oh, he was one of the people who organized the protest. They killed him. There's been assassinations. You hear them telling you, oh, Sierra Leone has abolished the death penalty, but there are extrajudicial killings across the country. So it's a facade. Again, it goes back to the lies being told. It goes back to the lies being told. This is Evangelist Sampson's wife. After, Evangelist, at the funeral, the day they buried Evangelist Sampson.
International committee will fight for me. Will fight for me. Americans for justice.
So currently, viewers, we're in Connaught Hospital, Usai. As you see, everybody don't gather, and today, now the day where governments they don't select, say for go beg the one then way be lost in life during the August 10 conflicts. Yeah.
I shall stand to the wife of Evangelist.
Okay, you see today with finally government declared to arrest some of the people that really died. How life don't stand for you since?
Yes, me man not die August 10. Man die August 14 and then take 11 and shoot down from the back. The international committee will fight for me. Will fight for me. Americans for justice. The begin at 16 months old, always they call him daddy. Dad. Man to take care of the beginning at 24 hours.
These are the victims. This is what Julius Marabio did.
Yeah, wait. God shot is alive. Don't follow him, man. Don't follow him, man. It's not the end of his life. Is there anything is too hard for me? No. It's don't follow the man. It's not the end of his life. Is there it will not fail? What is hard for me to do? I've done it to my knowledge and my will for you. What to say to God is not your life. Say you are just a man. Change your mind.
These are real victims, Dr. Carlson. Real victims. All right? Real victims in Sierra Leone. And that is what I want to share with you guys. There is more, tons of them. So when I see Julius Marabio attending these international seminars, like this one, going there and, sitting with this panel, saying, and spewing the garbage that he's spewing, incoherent nonsense, has no clue of what's going on. It bothers me. And I'll close again by allowing Tucker Carlson to ask this question.
Mr. President, that the model of government around the world seems to be changing, and people seem to have lost confidence in democracy, at least in the West. People aren't quite as keen to promote democracy. Do you notice this? Do you think democracy is in retreat around the world?
I think the world is in transition.
Yes.
And normally that comes along with instability. I normally refer to it as we are in a state of flux.
Yes.
We have been told to go democratic, and those who are leading the way or who have been teaching us to be democratic are no longer committed to that method of governance. So we are left to choose, but I still believe that democracy is the best method of governance, choosing who leads, especially liberal democracy with all the freedoms that go with it, so that human rights and other liberties are observed and maintained. we remain committed to democracy.
Bullshit. 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 I just shared all that stuff with you guys. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it right here. Thank you all for joining me. Make sure I don't, comment. Let me know what part of the world you're watching me from. Put your comment in the comment section. I'll take a look at it. Yeah, Africa, we have to save the continent. Saving Africa Uncensored. Make sure you subscribe and follow, okay? All right, guys. I'll come back. I'll come again to you guys. Bye-bye, everybody.